Okay, so you guys, we're going to read over this assignment sheet. Does everybody have this assignment sheet?
Is that the one with the kids on it?
This is the one that says human interest.
We got it on Friday.
I got one lucky orbs.
I don't,
One lucky
Got it on
one.
Friday.
I'm not
Dominic,
sure.
you've got it.
I'm not quite sure if we got that.
Do you have it?
Definitely. Let me check.
Okay, so you guys can check without talking about it.
Human interest news article assignment.
Right. Okay.
Sounds like it.
So
Yeah, I need one.
what we're gonna do today is go over this. I'm gonna read through a sample with you, and then you're gonna have time to get started.
I think me and Matt both need one.
Did you look, Luke?
I did.
I'm sorry.
I just heard Luke out.
I just found it.
What is it?
Luke.
My name's Andrew.
Okay, you guys.
Oh, Luke.
Here, let me take that.
And don't go hurt my baby.
We just found
Random
it.
here.
We just found it.
Okay.
Shoot.
So, Addison, you have an abundance of energy. Would you please read
What was that, Addison?
the assignment?
Write a 3-paragraph article about refugee resettlement. Your article should have a persuasive focus today, so it does not sound like a report. You should have at least one clear appeal to pathos, logos, and ethos. The link should be 1 to 1.5 pages.
Okay, so you can write out to the side 2 pages. That's as long as it can be. I took an article I wrote last year and I changed it, and I had a hard time doing it in 2 pages. So you can do 2 pages. It's due next Monday, so that's a week from today. It's not long. You're gonna have 2 days in class at least to work on it. You may have some partial class periods also. Okay, Aiden, would you read structuring your article, the italicized?
Determine the objective of your article. Does refugee resettlement benefit American society? Does refugee resettlement harm American society? Is refugee resettlement a moral imperative?
Turn around, Aiden.
Do refugees contribute to the U.S. economy? Do refugees drain the U.S. economy? Do refugees benefit the communities in which they live? Do refugees endanger the communities in which they live?
Okay, so you guys, this is like not exhaustive, but there's a whole lot of these, because if you Google refugees, as I did last week, there's so much that comes up. It's enormous. So you've got to figure out one part of refugee resettlement that you want to take. And you can take the side that refugees are positive or that they're detrimental. You can go either way. Today I'm going to give you an article that takes a little bit more the other side of some of the dangers of some of the reasons that Trump has diminished refugees, the numbers coming into the country. But you want to take one aspect. So the sample that I gave you that we're going to read, all I took was a social. I took a social interest to say, this is a real person and helping refugees is beneficial. That was mine. It was more of a social. Okay.
So, on like our mask paper, we weren't really allowed to talk about like how like politically, like a political view from it. Are we allowed to bring that into?
Yeah, you can. Why could you not talk about a
Or I
political
feel like we weren't allowed to say like Trump doesn't wear masks, Biden does. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, it wasn't super persuasive. If
Yeah.
you just
That
cite a
was
politician, Addison, that's not necessarily persuasive. I will not say the Republican Party is anti-refugee, but Trump has been all for limiting them. And the Democrats, here's the deal. In our country, it's 2 extremes. You've got the Republicans that are saying we need to have a very defined path to citizenship, and we just can't let anybody in at any time. And then the Democrats are more like, well, there are all these people leaving here illegally. What if we just go ahead and make them citizens? So you kind of have these 2 extremes, and in the middle would be, hey, we don't just let anybody in. We have rules, but we do have a really clear path for them becoming citizens. So you're going to hear a lot of exaggeration because both parties are kind of on the fringe. Josie.
So what if you're kind of like in the middle of it and like you see the benefits and the bad like parts of it? Like how would you write it like that?
You can write an article like that.
Wait, Miss Jonas?
You, Mariah, Addison, this way.
So you just said that we were gonna write an article about whether you're for or against it, but here you gave us an article about an actual person.
Yeah.
I did.
But you said we weren't gonna do that, we were just.
Okay, so here's the emphasis. Human interest. Even if you write about education or jobs or the economy, you need to have some real person that you include in your article. Okay? So, this is not a research paper. This is like an editorial for the newspaper. So you are trying to appeal more to emotion, lighter on the facts, but you're gonna have some facts. Okay? Okay, read the introduction, Mariah.
Okay, this should contain a hook that will capture the reader's attention. Consider starting with an
Antidote.
antidote,
Wait,
okay.
that's-
Questions,
Mhm.
interesting, statistic, or startling statement. The introduction needs to be relevant and concise. It should provide a clear focus for the rest of the article. It can also ask a question that will be answered by the article.
Okay, so you're not gonna have like a clear, doesn't have to have a thesis, but the introduction should give you a focus. Okay? Mm-hmm.
Like, so are we writing a story about a refugee or making up our own story about?
We're not making up your own story. So you could talk about the family that you saw the video.
Why is antidote spelled like that?
So antidote, you guys are probably thinking of a vocab word a couple of years ago. A-N-T-I-D-O-T-E, that is a medicine. That's something that counters.
So this
An
is-
anecdote is a story, okay? They're like homonyms, they're spelled differently, they sound the same. Okay, so body, Tracy, can you read under body?
What is the most important information your reader needs to know about your topic? What information will leave the emotion that you want to stir in the reader? This is not a research paper. This is in a newspaper article. So only include information that pertains to your objective. Keep your focus.
Okay, so this is, you might just underline that, emotion. When somebody opens the newspaper or when they pick up their news feed, they have a choice of whether to read an article or not. So you really have to make it appeal to them in some way. And a scholarly research paper does not capture readership. Now, it's very important, but the reason we're doing this is to really practice pathos, emotional appeal with some facts. Mhm.
Isn't like only talking about like the emotional approach to things sometimes kind of dangerous because a lot of times you can feel one way but the facts don't support that?
Exactly. So you have to have logos and pathos. You will have the other in there. So this can't be purely emotional. But here, in my opinion, is where we err at Caldwell. We spend a lot of emphasis on logos and ethos, and the pathos is about this deep. So we are really going to go after something that isn't a more emotional topic. Because I want you to practice that. These days, the reason that people will listen to you is if you can access their feelings. We, as Christians, I believe, need to learn how to acknowledge people's feelings and bring in facts and credibility and quote experts, but we've got to acknowledge the emotion. Okay? So we're going to try to do both, but I'm emphasizing the pathos. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is probably already been asked, but how are we, like, is it about a person? Like, are we trying to tell their story and, like, if it's beneficial? Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, we're writing it about an actual refugee, and then are we saying if it's beneficial or not? Or, like,
Okay,
if it's
let me,
good or not, right?
let's do conclusion. We're gonna read the sample and then I wanna answer your question. Okay, so can you read conclusion, Andrew?
Yeah, wait, can I read the conclusion and then go blow my nose?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Summarize the importance of your topic. What do you most want your reader to remember? Is there any action step your reader could take?
Okay, so let's look at this article. And here's what I want you guys to do is at the end, I want you to tell me, how do you feel? That's gonna tell me if I achieved my objective. So let's read this, and what I hope you're gonna see, and I've actually marked how the elements you need, logos, pathos, ethos. So, John Carter, would you read the first paragraph?
Sure. Many boys climb trees when they're young, but how many do you know do so in order to hide from soldiers? This is what 8-year-old Devin did when he was forced to flee from a refugee camp in Sierra Leone with his mother and sister. Today, he bears a scar on his arm where a soldier's bullet hit him as he scrambled up a tree. Devin's story is not typical of most American children, but sadly, it is typical of many children who grow up in war-torn African countries.
Okay, Dominic, can you read the next one?
Amen. A refugee is a person who is forced to leave his or her country due to political or religious persecution, civil war, or natural disaster. According to statistics compiled by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, in 2020, there's an estimated 26 million people in the world who are refugees. Most of these refugees become residents of a UN-sponsored refugee camp in neighboring countries. Many refugees long to resettle in a safer country, but this process is long and difficult. Countries such as the United States, Australia, Great Britain, Norway, Canada, and Turkey all accept a certain number of refugees each year.
Okay, Matt, can you read the next? Okay, so you guys right there, you've got attention getting, like I started with like this guy Devin. And then I gave some facts, just to educate, so I've given some logos and some good background information. Okay, Matt, read the next paragraph.
In Devin's case?
Mm-hmm.
In Devin's case, war came to his home country of Bulgaria in 1990. His mother was forced to leave their home to travel refugee in the neighboring country of
Sierra Leone.
What?
Sierra Leone.
Country of Sierra Leone. It was in this camp that Devon and his sister Denise would be born. Devon spent his growing up years living in a camp run by the United Nations, sleeping in a tent and standing in the line for food rations. When war came to Sierra Leone, he fled with his family to another camp in Guinea.
Okay, those are hard words to say. Guinea. Okay, Ian, would you read the next one?
When Devin was 9 years old, his family was told that they would be relocated to the United States. Devin and his mother and sister were ecstatic.
Can you make sure that's unlocked? It doesn't need.
Well, I thought I was.
As a law,
Hello, Mr. Water.
Okay, Ian, can you start again that paragraph?
When Devin was 9 years old, his family was told that they were being relocated to the United States. Devin and his mother and sister were ecstatic. They believed that moving to the United States would change their lives forever. With only a bag of belongings, they boarded several planes and eventually landed in Greensboro, North Carolina. Members of a local church and the casework of their resettlement agency met them at the airport and took them to a new apartment. In 2 days, Devin and his family went from living in a tent and having their own apartment.
Okay, so a little bit of pathos, trying to give some more insight into their information, into their life. Mariah, the next paragraph.
Okay, I found you.
Hmm?
That's where it starts.
When refugees?
When refugees are
Sorry.
settled.
When refugees are settled in a host country, they are assigned to a refugee resettlement agency such as Church World Service in Greensboro. Devon's family was also sponsored by a local African American church who helped them buy groceries, make doctor's appointments, and read their mail. Within a week of arriving in Greensboro, Devon was enrolled in a nearby school. Even though he had never attended school, 10-year-old Devon was placed in the 5th grade. Because Devon had never learned to read or write, school was difficult for him. But his friend's disposition helped him make many American friends. Some families from school even helped him join soccer team. Another family signed him up for a festival.
Okay, Becca, can you read the last one?
Refugees have an easier time settling into a community when they have relationships with Americans. Many churches believe that helping refugees is a part of Christ's mandate to love the least of these. In Matthew, Jesus encourages people to clothe and feed the poor, and he states, "I tell you the truth, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." Caring Christians made a huge difference in Devon's adjustment to the United States. Devon knows this, and he has a heart that wants to give back. This past Christmas, he served breakfast at a homeless shelter. Despite still being poor, Devon believes that by coming to the United States, he is one of the lucky ones among refugees.
Okay, so let me just ask you, Amelia, how do you feel after reading that?
What do you mean?
Like, what's your view of refugees?
Like, what I think?
No, like this. So here's the thing, I want everybody to think about what is an emotion that they would like for their reader to feel. What?
She's asking like what do you feel like?
Gosh,
are you
the
happy,
pressure.
sad?
What do you think?
What do you think about?
Sad /
Huh?
happy,
Okay, can I ask you guys, this is a hard question. Sympathetic. Okay, how many people felt a little bit of sympathy? That was really what I was going for. Like, hey, they're real people and
Sorry,
you can
my
get
brain.
involved. No, that's okay, it's a hard question. So what I wanted was this sense of, hey, they live in your community, you can help them. Look at these people that helped them get on soccer team. Got Devin on a soccer team and a basketball team.
Wait,
And-
hold on. Is it Devon or Devin?
Well, it's a made up name. It's a real person. It's
I'd
a
say
made up
Devon.
name. I would have
Devon.
said
How do you
Devin
know Devon?
It's Devon.
because we met him when he first came to the United States.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So he has another name, but we're gonna protect him.
oh,
Okay.
okay.
Oh,
I
you
get it.
can't put in their real names.
So it's not Devon?
No, it's not.
Why do we have to
Damien.
protect his
I
name?
like Devon.
Well, because I'm sharing a lot about his story.
Oh, he's like he's still a little kid, right?
No, he's 26 now.
Oh, that's
He's,
nice.
he's been here for a
So
while.
like, if I were to search up a story about, like,
Devon.
So we have
it's
this.
like a guy, I'd have to change their name.
Yeah, well,
No, because if it's on the internet and they have made their story public, like the Haman family, you can use that family.
I can in my
Who's the
article.
Devon family, dude?
One
That's the Syrian family in Canada.
Oh,
Wait,
dude, yeah.
I can
Yeah.
just copy off that.
oh, do we look up a
Put it in the
refugee
story?
thing?
So
If you don't
here's
want
the
to
thing,
copy.
I am giving you guys the basics of what you need. I'm gonna give you one printed article, and I've given you 2 videos, which if they're not posted on Google Classroom yet, they will be this afternoon. So those, you have enough in the way of sources, but let's say that you want more. Let's say you wanna focus on a kid, or let's say you wanna focus on a single man. You can Google this. There are so many articles / YouTube documentaries on people. I don't want you to spend too much time researching. What I really want you to do is take an approach where you can practice. How could you write an article for the newspaper? So like if I was gonna submit this and I ran out of time, I might have, said something at the end about, you can make a difference. Look at resettlement agencies in your community. Look at opportunities to tutor or to sponsor somebody on a sports team. Like I might have a little bit more like advocacy, take action.
Isn't there people fun if we can make those like videos that it's like that I get a lot of ads about like dogs in their shelters and like yeah.
Where you
I mean,
going?
Those make me. It's like the set. It's like they said like
Oh.
millions of
you
dogs
don't-
in shelters
Nice.
are neglected without homes
Well,
to go.
that's
to.
pathos.
Yeah, so I'm saying it would be fun if we could make like a video about refugees that makes people like.
Okay, so that was really the whole point of that video. The first video that you saw, what is a refugee? That didn't at all stir your feelings. It was very factual,
But it didn't really captivate.
but
me.
Yeah.
it didn't. Okay, so now you're onto something.
Activate.
When issues become
Activation.
personal, people are going to
Yes.
listen more. But you've got to have facts. You can't just riff off of your emotion.
I
Josie.
have 2 questions.
Mhm.
The first one is, do we have to have like an example of somebody in there, or like,
No.
okay, so.
Having a personal example is one appeal to
So
pathos.
if we just say like, generally speaking, like, this one country has a lot of refugees and like they're being relocated or something, you could say something more like along those lines instead of one specific person.
Yes, so you guys listen. Having a personal example is one way of appealing to pathos. You don't have to, and actually I like what Josie's saying. You could focus on a country. You might focus on, guys, you could focus on Sudan. You could focus on Venezuela. You could take one particular country, and you could really appeal to emotion about how people have been mistreated in that country in general, not personalized. So that was your first question.
And then my second one is, a lot of like the pathos, I feel like can be kind of like subjective, so how do we like know how exactly to do it?
So, okay, so there's a couple things, let me point out, and Aiden, I'll call on you in a minute. So telling the story was pathos. Trying to talk, like get to know his family at the bottom of the first page about Denise and I know, this way. Denise and Devin, you know, trying to say like he spent his life growing up sleeping in a tent, standing in line for food rations. Like I'm highlighting emotion that's designed to appeal to, information designed to appeal to emotion. But if you look at the second page where it says Devin and his mother and sister were ecstatic, I actually gave them emotion. That's another way of pathos. Okay? So if you wanted to take a country and you wanted to talk about the injustice, the unfairness, the brutality, all of that would be examples.
Can we make a video? One of the sad videos I was talking about.
You cannot make a video, and you will thank me for that. It's a writing class. I love it. Yes, these we will.
Are we gonna need to have like compound sentences and complex?
Not in this one. This
Okay.
one is really focusing on pathos, logos,
So what are
ethos.
like the things we're gonna need to have?
I'll give you a rubric
And
later.
then, wait, so what do you mean we can write about a country, like, on the amount of, like, refugees that come from it?
Okay, you guys, I'm just gonna pause for a second. I know that it's the Monday after Halloween. I know you guys probably have residual sugar in your blood, but there are lots of side conversations. Addison, you do not need to sing in class, okay?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so I'm going to start putting names on the board. This is just your warning. Stop getting distracted by things on the ground and next to you, okay? So, Josie, I wanna stress this. Emotions can be very manipulative. That's why you've gotta have some facts with it, okay? So what I'm saying in here is that it's widespread, 26 million. That's all I really need to do is there's 26 million. Here's the story of one. Okay, and how do they come here? They get a resettlement agency, and those social workers help them. Okay, it's tricky. Aiden,
If we like do research on a particular refugee, would we have to cite the source we got it from?
yes, you will have to cite your sources.
I'm not work excited.
Wait, okay.
And can I just make it extra fun? You can only use 2 sources.
What?
Again, I'm trying to
We can
keep
only
this.
cite 2 or we can only.
get into?
You really want to get it? Okay, so let me just, you guys, those of you where this topic grabs you, like I'm having everybody do this, as something where we can practice logos, ethos, pathos, okay? But if this topic really grabs you, you can go the distance and do it for mini thesis. Every year I've got a couple people that research refugee resettlement for mini thesis, so you can do that, okay? But just keep in mind, I'm trying to keep this very targeted. You're gonna use 2 sources. It's going to be 2 pages, and you're just trying to shine the light on some aspect of refugee resettlement that you think people need to be aware of. Okay? Okay, Aiden, did you have another question? Okay, any other questions? So let me give you another example. Maybe I want to talk about how refugees improve the community, about how a little known fact is that refugees have a really high rate of owning their own businesses. And so I might talk about Esau, who owns Jerusalem Market in downtown Greensboro, about how he and his family came from Palestine, and blah, 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 blah. And use him as an example of a refugee that's come to a community, and he's added a whole lot. They own 2 restaurants.
They bring their culture.
And they brought their culture, and so I could just talk about, here's a refugee who became a really contributing businessman. Okay? So don't go too far, and Becca, I so get you. Like, if you're interested in this, it's really hard not to want to find everything. You're trying to find, but for you, if you support refugee resettlement, what's one way in which it's beneficial? Okay? Just focus on one thing. Addison.
I was gonna say that, my mom, like, really loves the Jerusalem Marketplace.
Oh.
When I tried it, I cannot do it.
You couldn't do it?
Oh my gosh, no.
Maybe it's an acquired taste, Addison. They have the best hummus in Greensboro.
Like, I just couldn't. It just didn't taste right to me.
Yeah.
It's our American taste.
Just a lot, it's just so much different, it's so different.
It's very different,
Yeah,
yes.
and one time I brought grape leaves for like culture day, or whatever, and people hated them. Grape leaves? Yeah,
Oh,
it's like a
that's like
Lebanese
the Greek
delicacy.
day. What do they
We
look
got them all the
Yeah.
time when they were union.
Yeah,
What do they look like?
but that is
Oh,
one,
Lebanese?
Yeah.
What?
but it's also Middle Eastern, I think they have it in Greece
Yeah,
too.
New Jersey.
You're Japanese.
Lebanese.
This is what comes from wearing masks,
Yeah.
Really?
Lebanese, right?
Fun fact, yeah.
So
Half Lebanese?
Yeah.
probably, and Mariah, I think you told me like your ancestors immigrated.
Yeah.
They chose to come here, but you guys, you never know people around you who are refugees,
Wait,
who
I
they
wonder if-
started in that way.
I'm a full-on.
Especially these refugees that came and brought little
Yes.
children and they've grown up in the culture and they speak American.
My
What if you, like, find-
great-grandparents were refugees from Ireland.
Yo.
During the potato famine?
Ireland.
Yeah.
No, when my,
Yeah.
my ancestors were Irish, and they
Yeah.
came over to England and they bribed a bunch of Irish or a bunch of German or it was German or Irish soldiers with beer and kegs of
What a
wine.
great story,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, and then they
All I
they
heard was
bribed
beer.
soldiers
Is it a
and
myth?
with the beer and wine and they escaped.
Is it a myth?
A myth.
It would be so,
Ireland, this is Ireland.
it would be so interesting for you guys to find out how each of your families came
Oh,
to this
my
country.
dad.
What if my- what if my-
Okay, no, but we're not gonna do it right now. We're not, no, we're not gonna do it right now. Okay, does anybody have any questions, John Carter,
Huh?
about this assignment? Do you feel like you can start on this? One value. Okay, now, you guys, I'm gonna turn you loose, but I am going to give you, hold on.
Non-gracious.
I am going to give you a worksheet on phrasal verbs.
No.
Yes.
HW?
This should take you 10 minutes. I just have to keep this fresh in your mind, and tomorrow we're gonna do some more with Grace.
Is this HW?
We're going outside.
What, this is HW. So Jeff, we're not gonna go outside. You guys can get a computer. You can go ahead and open the doc.
Oh, God.
I've given you an article to read.
Wow, leave.